Christmas. We reconvened on the 26th that evening, and it's been a productive couple of days, a few days of practice, and get ready for a very, very good 8-4 FAU team that is nice ball club. They're good. Mix up their defenses. They're a team that is very effective on the glass, getting about 37% of their misses back, which is a great number, close to 15 a game. And along with that, they're a team that will probably test our ball screen defense like it hasn't been tested in a while. Random ball screens in all areas of the court. They've got a nice variety in 3 different post players, the pick and roll, the pick and pop. They've got one shooting 60% or close to it from the 3. And yet they've got very athletic wings that can do some things, and their guards are all downhill drivers. So we'll really spend a tremendous amount of time here in the last 3 days, especially after the last 7 minutes of the Missouri game, in which we botched about every ball screen we could handle. But gonna play well tomorrow, and FAU is well coached and very good ball club. Thank you. Great day of meeting.
Brad, you mentioned the ball screens, and what kind of focus have you guys had on that, especially kind of given how Missouri won?
Well, we've been really good at them until the last 7 minutes. And, you know, in the last 7 minutes of the Missouri game were our lack of discipline. We did some very, very random things. We tried for steals, we gambled, we trapped on the baseline, things that we had not done the first 33 minutes. So it was just more of about cleaning it up, being solid, just nobody doing anything spectacular. We don't need heroes. And you know, we had 7 consecutive plays where we made the wrong play that we hadn't made the entire night, and Missouri made us pay.
Right, you mentioned not needing heroes, and when Trent is having the kind of night he was having against Missouri, how do you balance, you know, trying to make sure things are distributed and yet not quieting, you know, what he's doing well?
Well, I think a little bit of that is, and I'll say a couple things. One, along those lines, we had 6 assists. I think that may be a low in the history of my career. You can't have 6 assists and win a college basketball game. And yet, on the other side of that, you give me the 6 threes that Kipper missed and have him reshoot those, and he'll probably make 6 in a row. We got some good looks. Kipper got some good looks. You know, I think the one thing that we didn't do enough in that game was feed Georgie. And you know, Georgie was 4 or 5 from the 2-point area, and we didn't get him enough looks. So I think there's a balance there. Iowa was, you know, out of it early, you know, in terms of getting really a rhythm with too early. Yeah, and I think again it goes back to playing with some pace, playing with some tempo. Missouri did a good job of picking us up, you know, full court and knocking us out of that a little bit with their man. But yeah, we just got to find that balance. But I liked some of the shots we got, and you know, Trent's one of those guys that gets very when he gets it going, he can do that. But most of those nights, it can't be him. But I love the shots Kipper had, and you know, we didn't make enough of them.
Right in the back. You've had more success in the first half of games so far this season. Is that something that you can kind of work to rectify in practice, or something that kind of has to just run its course as the season comes along to kind of put together that full 40 minutes?
Both. It's a, we talk about it almost every day at the end of practice. Staying focused, staying, and I challenge them every day with, and I mix up our practices. Don't do the same segments at the same time every day, just so that there's a tremendous focus. Yesterday, for example, I put the scout part as the very last thing in practice. So we learn to stay focused, learn to stay dialed in, not lose our attention to detail. And you know, the details are the important things. And you know, we talk about staying in the corners and spacing, and yet the tendency is to get 4 feet out of the corners. Well, that's a big difference between a back cut layup or a defender being in the way so we can't. And it's all those little things like that. Yet in the Missouri game, I thought we did some really good things throughout the second half of that game. It was just the last 7 that we just went cuckoo, I guess, with some different hero ball, let's all call it.
I mean, how would you maybe evaluate the first third-ish of the season, in terms of growth you've seen, maybe you had, maybe growth you wanted to see and haven't?
It's probably been if I'm putting a grade on it, a B minus type, B plus, B. We're better, and we're doing a lot of things better. We're much better on the defensive end than we were early. There's no doubt about that. I like the way we've played at times offensively, more early than late. You know, I thought our pace and tempo early was very, very good. You know, so it's kind of a mixed bag. You know, I think there's still been some inconsistency with, you know, obviously not having Tev, not having the consistent backup to Georgie. You know, we've still kind of reached there a little bit, but I've seen tremendous progress in Samba, and I'm excited about what he can bring. So, you know, I think there's been a little bit of a grab bag there, Scott, in terms of, but we're a better basketball team, there's no doubt, and I think every player on our team is better.
How would you characterize or assess Io, especially over this last few ball games? I know you didn't play one of them, but is he going through ups and downs that are typical of a freshman? Was the last game just a blip?
Yeah, I mean, the last game's a blip. Yeah, I don't think the last couple, I don't think we'll see that Io anymore, because he's been unbelievable in practice this week. I think there's so much change that goes on with the freshmen, and you can look at him, or you can look at anyone in the country, any freshman. It's an adjustment, and there's a lot of new things thrown at him. So I'm really pleased and excited about his first semester. He shot the ball particularly well from 3. That was a route that he couldn't do. I think he's a much better help defender. He's becoming a much better leader. He's becoming much more vocal. He's gotten better in ball screens. So I think we're going to see a really good Iowa Big Ten play.
Brad, Jalen Ingram is a double threat for Florida Atlantic. Just talk a little bit about how you plan to contain and try to hold him.
Well, he's a good player, and they do a lot to get him opportunities and shots. And they're not just a one-guy team. Adger scares me. Their bigs scare me. We've got to be solid defensively in everything we do and make possessions hard. The one thing I'm very concerned about is them on the offensive glass, and that's spent a lot of time talking about that. And they've got guards who are very good rebounders, and they've got wings who are great rebounders.
You mentioned Tevye. Any update on his status at tomorrow's game?
He will not be in tomorrow's game.
And I guess after that, with non-conference portion of the schedule ending tomorrow, did the first 2 early Big Ten games, they kind of illustrate maybe to this team that most hadn't seen Big Ten before what they're going to have to expect for the next 2+ months?
Well, I think they've got a, at least in the Nebraska game, they got a very good dose of what being on the road is like. And that we had to learn from that. That was, we played at Notre Dame, but it was a different crowd there than we saw in Lincoln. And Nebraska's a pretty hostile, great home court, great fans. And, they punched us in the mouth early, and it was a fight to try to get back into it. So I think we understand that a little better than maybe, we did prior to that game. But, we talked a lot about how hard it is to win on the road, how disciplined you have to be, and how tough you have to be. And, the Ohio State game was different because it was a neutral site game, but, we'll worry about Indiana on Sunday.
Some of these defensive lapses and the lack of discipline, is that a communication thing? Is it an experience thing? Where do you kind of find that?
Both. It's a lot. They go hand in hand, and I think it's one of the things that we're talking about a lot. We've spent a great deal of time over the last 3 days talking about how do you win? You do your job. Your job. You don't have to be exceptional. It's 5 guys doing their job. And you get one guy who struggles or is lost or whatever, that becomes the strength of your team. We talk about the chain. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And when one guy doesn't talk, you can go to any level. Any great team is talks and communicates. And sometimes it's very difficult to get guys to do that. But that's the next step for us, is being that disciplined and that tough, so we can execute when we have to.
Coach, is leadership part of that, as far as getting that out of the guys, and how would you kind of evaluate the leadership you have on this team right now?
You know what? Most days I really like it. Most days. And yet, I think there's a piece we're still looking for. I think that AJ's been great. I think we're seeing a different Kipper who's kind of stepping into some of that. I think Trent's been very, very good into that. And yet, when it gets really hard, and you're down 7, or you're down 4, or whatever, part of leadership is just doing the right thing and stepping up and making a free throw to stem the tide, and being having a bravado about you that you're going to do that you're going to help your team win. And sometimes it's a silent leadership, sometimes it's I can't put my finger on it, it's a competitive leadership, and we've talked a lot with our team, I go back to Michael Jordan just because he's coming out with a documentary at some point and talks about, he competed to win and everything. And that's leadership too. And so we have leadership in a lot of areas, and we're getting it, and guys are trying, and yet we've got to have that competitive leadership to help us win. See you tomorrow.